Welcome back to Hannity as we continue with 2016 GOP presidential candidate, Senator Marco Rubio. Senator, let's talk a little about the race. Put up some poll numbers. Fox News poll has you and Ted Cruz tied at 14%. That seems Ben Carson, in light of he took a lot of negative hits last week. He's down fairly significantly. Then we have a head-to-head matchup. Fox News poll, you beating Hillary Clinton 50 to 42%, I believe, more than any other candidate. What is your take on those polls as we now get closer to Iowa?
Well, you know, Sean, I never get too excited about polls one way or the other. We've been up and down, and so for me, I mean, it's interesting to read and look at it, but I'm more interested in the direction of the race that it's going. I mean, this is a race that's become increasingly about national security, and it's good that it has, because that's the predominant job of a president, is to be commander-in-chief. We also have to talk about the millions of Americans who feel like outsiders in their own country. A growing number of Americans who feel like they're being left behind. They have traditional values, and if they espouse those values, they're called bigots and haters. They're stuck in jobs that don't pay enough. They're living paycheck to paycheck, or they're at home because they can't find a job, or they've been replaced by a machine. And then student loan debt. You've got these young Americans with thousands of dollars in loans, and they can't find a job because their degree doesn't lead to a job, and the economy isn't creating it. So I think those are the issues we want to focus on, and those are the issues that are going to allow a Republican nominee, who I hope and believe will be me, but the Republican nominee, to defeat Hillary Clinton, who has no answers to any of these problems. Her answer to every issue is a tax increase and a government program.
Yeah. You know, if you look at the president and Hillary Clinton and their foreign policy, I mean, they're kind of joined at the hip. And one of the questions I've been trying to ask is, how can one president be so wrong so often on such important issues? Not only the economy, which I make my arguments regularly that he has really been a disaster on, but foreign policy missteps. I put some of it together. Let's take a look at it.
I mean, think about it. Iran, Cuba, Venezuela, these countries are tiny compared to the Soviet Union. They don't pose a serious threat to us the way the Soviet Union posed a threat to us.
We have been very clear to the Assad regime, but also to other players on the ground, that a red line for us is we start seeing a whole bunch of chemical weapons moving around or being utilized.
And I am confident that Assad's days are numbered. A few months ago, when you were asked what's the biggest geopolitical threat facing America, you said Russia. Not Al-Qaeda, you said Russia. And the 1980s are now calling to ask for their foreign policy back.
But ISIS is gaining strength, aren't they?
Well, I don't think they're gaining strength. What is true is that from the start, our goal has been first to contain, and we have contained them.
My last election, after my election, I have more flexibility.
Iran's not a threat. Medvedev, do you tell Vladimir, I'll have more flexibility after the election? He's been wrong on Syria. Assad is going to outlast Obama, and he predicted that he'd be gone. He also said, of course, this infamous quote in the New Yorker magazine, that the analogy we use around here sometimes, and I think is accurate, is if a JV team puts on a Lakers uniform, that doesn't make them Kobe Bryant, talking about ISIS. How can one person be so wrong on so many important issues, just like he's wrong about this refugee issue?
Well, think about it this way. In 2016, the American people will have a choice to make, and the answer is pretty straightforward, and the question is pretty straightforward. Name me one part of the world where America is stronger and safer than they were before Barack Obama was elected president. Name me one instance where America is stronger and safer because Hillary Clinton was the Secretary of State. The answer is we're not. Terrorism is no longer just Al-Qaeda. They're still around, including Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula and their spin-off group, the Khorasan Group, that's located in Syria as well. But also, you've got now ISIS, a group that didn't exist in its current form before the president took over. Afghanistan's headed in the wrong direction. We've seen what's happened in Iraq. ISIS is now spread into Libya, one of their prime operating spaces. So where in the world are we stronger? Russia is more of a threat today than they were when the president made those statements back during the 2012 debates. On every single issue, we have lost ground in our safety, in our security, and in our global prestige under Barack Obama.
Also on the economy. Well, he'll take on more debt than every other president before him combined. This horrible Iranian deal, which is another thing. Then you've got, you know, millions more in poverty, millions more in food stamps, median income down, Obamacare's imploding. This is a pretty severe situation. Let me ask about the state of the race from this sense. We saw you in your battles with Jeb Bush, and as much as we saw the op research he put together on you, Donald Trump has been pretty outspoken in trying to attack you. Headlines today that the trade deal and immigration create a big divide between you and Senator Ted Cruz. What is your answer to your fellow candidates as these, you know, as we get closer to Iowa and New Hampshire, things are going to heat up even more, right?
Yeah, well, but look, I mean, I like my opponents as people, and I think any of them would be better than Hillary Clinton. This is not personal. There are policy differences between us, and we should debate those policy differences. I think that's what we need to be doing in a primary. Policy differences are not personal, as long as they're done in a respectful way. And that's what we are all going to endeavor to do in this campaign. You know, we agree on most of the issues. That's why we're running as Republicans. But there are issues where there are some differences in our opinions or in our records, and those will be subject for debate in this campaign. And that's a normal part of a campaign. I think you can have a policy debate without it becoming personal, and that's what we're all going to endeavor to do, I hope.
All right, Senator Marco Rubio, thanks for being with us.
Thank you.